I'm Don Clark with FileMakerProGurus.com and with FM Database Consulting. And I'm in Los Angeles, actually in Burbank today, with David Knight of Angel City Data, one of the icons in the FileMaker industry. He's been doing this for 25 years, pretty much, since 1990. I've got a slight edge on him. I started in the fall of '89, just barely ahead
Barely
of him.
beat.
So, and we're here today to interview him and learn more about what he thinks is going on in the FileMaker community and all about his business and the types of things he likes to do. And ask him questions about how he got to be so successful and what kind of business practices he follows to maintain that success. So without much further ado, we've got David Knight here, and oh, one more thing, he was also the founder of FM Disk, which is Southern California's largest user group and probably one of the largest in the nation, isn't it?
The largest in the world.
Yeah, in the world.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And so usually when I get started here, David, the thing I look for from somebody is a success quote of some kind or another, something to share with our viewers that are going to let you know that let them know how you look at the world, essentially, and something that might keep you pumped up a little bit.
Mm-hmm. You know, in terms of walking around with a mantra or quote that dangles in my head, you know, there's a handful of things that have inspired me over the years. Mm-hmm. One of the early things that stuck with me as a kid was working with my grandfather, you know, fixing cars and doing woodwork and so on and so forth, and he used to say something that stuck with me, which is, do it right or do it twice. So paying attention to the details, mm-hmm. whether it's, you know, software or a client meeting or staff interaction or whatever, don't throw away things. You know, put the effort in it and do them right so that you don't have to revisit them later. One of the other things that a couple of friends of mine referred me to is this great book called Small Giants, and it's a really great book outlining a number of organizations around the country that have chosen not to grow to be large, but to be really good. Mm-hmm. Good culture, good in the community, good at what they do, and that's something that we've drawn a lot of parallels with and inspiration mm-hmm. for our company. So that's been a help to kind of look at other companies that do well in their industry, not just based on growth or revenue or whatever, but are strong and healthy and vital to the community and to the staff and the clients they work with.
I know you're located here in Burbank. I think you mentioned that there's one of the major studios right across the street, or DreamWorks and...
Several. We can walk to Disney,
okay.
The Disney headquarters, $60 billion company. We've got Warner Brothers about 300 yards from where we're sitting. We can walk to DreamWorks. There's a number, you know, Nickelodeon and The Simpsons television shows are all within a mile or so away. So yeah, we're kind of in the heart of Entertainment Central here.
Yeah, and you started out in that industry, didn't you?
Correct.
Tell us something about that.
Thanks. Back in the day, I became a recording engineer and then mm-hmm. a producer back in my 20s and had the quintessential, you know, the long hair, the mullet, and worked in studios, worked on a couple hundred records over about probably 12, 15 years. And as the lifestyle of that industry, working until 3 or 4 in the morning, was not really conducive to having a family, and I had a kid and I wasn't seeing her very much, and so I started dabbling into computer stuff and building systems for me to do my own invoicing with, and started in HyperCard. A friend of mine nodded me towards, hey, you may want to try this thing called FileMaker Pro, and I started using it and never looked back. So started building stuff for myself, then started building stuff. A couple of studios found out I was reasonably good at this and built some studio management systems, mm-hmm. And then it just kept, you know, I slowly started easing out of the record producing world, which was sort of crumbling on its own a bit at that stage, mm-hmm. and started sliding into the software development world, which was sort of expanding at that time. So it was really fortuitous. I got lucky, and I switched trains at the right time, I guess.
You don't have a background particularly in programming, like in college or in computer science or anything like that. So you learned a lot of this stuff. You're pretty much self-taught?
Correct. A lot of evenings and weekends, mm-hmm. just, you know, trial and error, taking apart demos, hanging out on the old AOL chat lists, trying to pick up any little tips and tricks from Kevin Junt or John Mark Osborne or some of the mm-hmm. early pioneers. I learned a lot from those kind of guys. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you know, there's a lot of people, I think, in this day and age that can successfully take college courses and trade schools and so forth and major in software development and so forth, because there's been just a world of of effort that's been put into those areas. But back in the day, I think when you and I got started, there weren't a lot of formal classes and things of that nature. So I sort of, I think a lot of the early pioneers kind of came in and just learned how to do it.
Yeah, I started in Omnis 5
There you go.
back in the day, and then did HyperCard after that on
Sure.
the Mac side, of course, and then moved into FileMaker
Yeah.
as well. So yeah, I understand where you're coming from, and,
Yeah.
and their stuff was not nearly as formalized at that point in time. But now on your FileMaker side, you've got one of the strongest backgrounds in the world, I imagine. All this time, all the experience you had,
Sure.
people working with you. You're FileMaker certified in how many?
Pretty much all of them,
Okay.
seven forward. Most of our team is. We got a couple of guys we're still trying to get certified. So yeah, we try to keep our axe sharp in that respect. There's always new things to learn, and we try to. The thing that's getting remarkable about FileMaker is back in the day, I think it really wasn't too difficult to be pretty expert in almost every area. FileMaker, boy, if you're a FileMaker Go expert, you may not have as much knowledge in custom web publishing with PHP, or maybe your server administration chops. So the product family and the growth of the platform has made it to where you got to really sharpen your stick in a number of different areas to stay up on it, or surround yourself with people who can help.
I think that's probably the smarter route to go. And you were mentioning that you started off as a one-man shop and moved forward and became, by the time FileMaker 6 came around, you were one of the world experts in FileMaker, and now you've backed off because of business concerns, not because you don't have the chops to do that, but because running the business is way more important. The sales side of things, the hiring and retention of people. Tell us how you do that. You mentioned earlier that you have had every person that started with you over the last how many years?
We just had our 10-year anniversary in July.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you've got everybody that started with you is still with you.
We've been very fortunate with respect to that.
Yeah.
We in the technology front, I think that's really hard to say, but yeah, every developer we've ever hired at Angel City still works with us to this day. So
That's incredible.
really try to keep. I think we had an office assistant went away to college. I think that's pretty much the only person that's ever left, and she came back and we got her a job at one of our customers. Holding on to good staff is an incredible part. Again, it's that same philosophy from Small Giants. It's about hiring the right people, keeping them successful. Surrounding them with things that help them succeed, and keeping them for as long as possible. I worked at a shop years ago where there was pretty much a revolving door of developers and managers that led me to believe, wow, this is not good for the company long term. And I've since gone to a number of conferences where a number of business consultants say that one of the number one costs to small businesses is the hiring and firing of employees. Every time you pull a person away, the whole table tips a little bit, and everybody else has to kind of carry additional load and so forth. So as the old axiom goes, slow to hire and quick to fire. So don't keep dead wood around and get rid of it. More importantly, we haven't had to do that because we're very cautious about bringing somebody in and upsetting the balance that we have with our team. So we're very, again, we really look at it from a strategic standpoint. If we're going to bring somebody in, are they going to be comfortable and a good fit for us 5 years from now, not just to help us get through a job that we're working on right now.
So in the long-term look at things, you said sales is really important as well. So you spend a lot of your time taking care of regular business matters, I'm sure.
Sure.
But sales probably is the thing that keeps the money coming in the door, and that's where you put a lot of effort. Is that correct?
Sure. There's a lot of things that you need to focus on in a business to keep it successful, and getting work, hiring good people, finding good customers, taking care of the book work and bookkeeping, administrative chores, insurance, rent, etc. All these things take some focus. The one constant, though, if you don't have work, none of those other things. You can sit there and go, gee, I've got this great staff, and if we don't have work, that can tumble down very quickly. So the people that have work can always find, if I need to subcontract to help with an extra load, if I need to bring in somebody that's got technical expertise in an area that we don't. Those are all good problems to have.
Yes.
But if I've got great technical expertise and no work, that doesn't help me. I got an interesting story. I don't know if you're going to want to keep this, but interesting story. I spoke, I want to say it was probably about the 2010 developer conference, and I had 2 sessions. I had a technical session on script triggers. I had about 800 people in the room. It was enormously attended. I had another session on how to find work as a FileMaker developer, and this was in the middle of a bad economy. I had 50 people in that room. It always strikes me how terribly focused our community is on the geeky, fun, technical aspects of what we do, and yet are not focused on the things that can bring down their business with respect to sales and marketing and running a good consulting shop. So I always try to introduce these concepts of running a good consulting shop whenever I have opportunities to speak with other
That's
developers.
great. That's great to hear, because you're right. But the reason, in their defense, is they are geeks by nature.
Of course, of course.
That's the fun stuff.
That's how I started. Yep. But again, me being a geek with a crew of people out there, if I can't keep the fish coming in, then that's not a good sign for our company.
We share a similar philosophy. I'm in the process of growing what I'm doing, and I see my role as the chief salesperson and the contact or the face of the business with everybody, and so I have to get all of my other ducks in a row, as it were, and line everything up so that it runs pretty well and keep the staff going and so forth. So I'm glad to hear you say that. That validates what I already knew, the path I wanted to take. So, what about the future for Angel City Data? Is it going to look bright at this point in time?
We are, I would say fundamentally yes. I think our team, we've made some adjustments and additions to our team in the last year, which has really helped broaden our skill set. We've got some excellent project managers. We've got some great technical team members that can kind of take apart and connect almost anything. We've really put a focus on design. We're really starting to raise our game in that area, where we just won the award in 2014 for the design of the year, and we're really starting to focus on the systems leaving here, paying that extra nth degree of attention to making sure that the designs are right. In terms of the future, we feel like our team is as well equipped as we've ever been, and we're continuing to look for new and different types of opportunities within the FileMaker space where we can apply our crafts and look for great opportunities.
So where do you, that brings us to the next area, I guess. Where do you see FileMaker going in the next couple of years?
FileMaker is a unique product. One of the things that we did, which a lot of my colleagues have been sort of looking over my shoulder on, is this last summer we work with a number of different technologies. And we put our team onto, during some quiet time, we said, hey, let's go out and look. Let's pretend we never did any software development before. Let's go out and look and see what else is out there that's a good web development or mobile platform or desktop designs and so forth. And we took a spin around the sandbox, as it were, and found a handful of products that showed some promise. But one of the things that it did was it thoroughly confirmed that FileMaker is really unique in its own space. It's a really great rapid application development tool. They did themselves a huge favor by getting the product working on the iPad and iPhone, the iOS. It's been a great boost to the product platform. I see FileMaker incorporated through Apple really pushing the iOS aspect, sort of that small business owner that walks into an Apple store that wants to get sort of a custom app that can help them run their business and doesn't want to spend the umpteen dollars building something in Xcode. So I think that's sort of a strategy that FileMaker is heavily focused on right now. And I think that there's probably still an awful lot of market to be had by gaining ground in some of those key areas.
That's very good. So, okay, well, let's get around to some of the favorite things, or maybe some of the favorite things that your guys are using out there for your tools or tricks or tips. Is there a plug-in or just something in particular you like to use that in the FileMaker area you'd like to share with us?
Oh gosh, what are some of the tools that we like to use? We're here in the greater Hollywood area, so You know, it's funny when we're talking with a lot of our colleagues, when I'm talking with other colleagues in other parts of the FileMaker universe, you know, they're talking about this system they built for a bank or an insurance company or job tracking or whatever. One of the things that's really unique about us is here in Hollywood, content is the king. So oftentimes, the container field is the most important field of an entire system.
Okay.
We got a casting director, he's keeping track of headshots, or an animation studio, and they're keeping track of character designs or storyboards. So the container field is really a critical thing. That said, we often find ourselves using things like the 360works plugin, Super Container.
Yeah.
Allows us to do some things that you can't quite get accomplished in native FileMaker. We use a lot of remote containers. We have enormous asset management systems. Planet Hollywood, we keep track of all of their 15,000 items at their hotel and restaurants. We've got prop and wardrobe tracking systems for Kennedy Marshall, Steven Spielberg, a number of prop and wardrobe shops, a number of art and high-end fine artists and things of that nature. So again, the multimedia aspect of FileMaker, we work that pretty hard. In terms of other tools that we use, a couple of our guys like using the 2Empower plugin, which is a nice plugin that helps provide some contextual searching capabilities.
It even allows you to search the relationship graph, by the way.
Correct.
I learned that the other day. I've got that, but I've never used it for that purpose.
Yeah, I think for a lot of the when we inherit systems, a lot of times customers come to us. They go, "Hey, you guys are a platinum firm. We've had 5 developers in-house that have kind of tinkered with our system over the last 15 years. Can you guys help us untangle this mess?" One of the first tools that we'll reach for is base elements. Nick Orr and his guys over at Goya do a great job with the tool.
That's a great tool.
And so one of the very first things we'll do is, before we touch a wire, let's go and run a diagnostic on this system, take a look and see where there may be some errors or some things that are dependent on each other. So that's been a really good tool for us to kind of leverage every once in a while. I would say that in general, we find ourselves using third-party plugins less. We'll do QuickBooks integration and so forth using the productive computing plugin and so forth. But by and large, I think we try to steer away from the plugins. We find ourselves moving more and more towards web services. Perfect case in point, customer comes to us with a FileMaker job or order tracking system. We'll often connect it up with FreshBooks Online or Xero or QuickBooks Online. We have customers that we're managing their assets and they want to be able to maybe mark a checkbox that a movie trailer is completed, and can that automatically get bundled up with You Send It or some email file delivery service and get pushed off automatically. So we find ourselves working with a lot of web services and third-party products that do something, MailChimp for your email, you know, things of that nature, so that we can go. FileMaker is sort of this dashboard in the center, and we've got these great web services and connections to and from proprietary tools that do that one thing really well. We don't want to recreate the wheel in FileMaker to try to build an iContact or Constant Contact email marketing engine. We'd rather tap into something that's already an industry standard and let FileMaker control the ins and outs of that through APIs and so forth.
Very nice. All right, well, final thing, I guess, is what do you do for non-FileMaker fun? I know FileMaker's been a big part of your life here.
We spend a lot of time, again, at the office. I don't just walk out of here and hang up the cleats. I get to an awful lot of chambers of commerce meetings. I help run this FM Disc group and so forth. So there's a lot of extracurricular stuff that sort of touch business. But in my downtime, I have a dog that I spend a lot of time with, take him to the dog park. My wife and I ride bikes. We love getting on our bikes and tooling around parts of LA and so forth, and getting around with a lot of friends and visiting family and so forth. Those are all good. We love traveling, getting in the car and noodling up to wine country, up Santa Barbara and Paso Robles and so forth. So those are all fun things that we like to do too.
You mentioned earlier when we were just getting acquainted that you used to ski. Do you still ski at all?
I haven't skied a whole lot. I used to, but back in my day, anything on water, frozen or liquid, water ski, barefoot, snow ski, surf, skateboard, snowboards, any of those things. I did pretty much all of them. I took a bike tumble about a year and a half ago. My knee's not quite as strong as it used to be, so I'm hoping to get back on snow skis one of these days. But in the meantime, I ride my bike.
Maybe see you at a Taos again like you used to do in
yeah,
your
maybe
college days.
maybe get up to New Mexico and challenge those double black diamonds.
Well, I'm past that age.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's a lot of fun. Well, that's great. Thanks very much for taking this time,
Sure.
David. I sure appreciate it. If there's anything you wanted to add, now'd be the time.
Oh gosh, what do I want to add? I'm trying to think if there's anything else to add. You get out of that, one of the things I always try to tell people is you get out of this community what you put into it. So, join a user group, jump on a chat list, go to the conferences, bring your iPad to your favorite business meeting, a chamber of commerce or some sort of mixer. There's some great opportunities to meet a lot of really great people and learn some new things by being engaged in the community. So I'm a big proponent of not being a wallflower sitting in the corner, but stepping in and meeting all the great people. I've got some amazing friends in the FileMaker community. I always joke around with my wife, who has been to 5 or 6 developer conferences and knows half of my friends, that when we retire, we're going to go to Winnebago and just drive to all my FileMaker friends around the country and visit them, because there's such a great community. There's great fabric in this group. So we have some lifelong friends that are in this community. So jump in. It's a great group.
That's great advice. And thanks very much again. And this is Don Clark from FileMakerProGurus.com and FM Database Consulting, and it's David Knight with Angel City Data. David Knight with Angel City Data. I'm going to have to fix that one up. We'll see. Thanks very much again.
Thanks. That was fun.